everybody.
Hello.
You're listening to the Macabre Podcast Universe, the podcast where we exist to prove people wrong when they say that sequels are never better than the originals. My name is Micah Macabre.
Bird Macabre.
And this movie does not prove our tagline correct. Right off the bat.
Spoiler
We're talking
alert.
Terminator Genisys. Genisys. This movie is absolutely insane.
Uh-huh.
I have never seen a movie like this.
No.
And I don't mean that in a good way.
No.
I
mean it in a bad way.
This was my first time. This was your first time.
Yeah.
But I think there's so much that I like have to express right off the bat. Is like this movie. I don't know that I've ever seen a movie misunderstand every single facet of what the franchise is.
Yeah.
Don't you think
Yeah.
so? I mean, you can argue all day long about Star Wars, even the Hobbit movies.
Oh my gosh.
Stuff like that.
I gotta say though, this was potentially more entertaining than some of the Hobbit movies because it was so insane. The Hobbit movies are like self-indulgent.
Yes.
And it's clear that, it's in a lot of ways, it's clear that just like make them as long as they can, make them epic so we can make more money. This movie, of course, they made it money. We know it's a business. We get that. But there was an element of, we got this really cool idea. And then the movie's going on, like, we got another really cool idea. And by the end of the movie, you got like 15 cool ideas. And they never latched onto one of them. Yeah. Therefore, it's just a roller coaster.
Yeah, my joke for the movie was producer walks in and he goes, "Hey, anyone have any ideas for a Terminator sequel?" 8 people raise their hand and he goes, "Perfect, let's do it."
Yeah.
But I can't think of another movie that does what this movie does.
Yeah.
All I can think of are movies where they travel back to previous movies like Endgame or Back to the Future. Or Insidious 2, but like they travel back to the previous movies for actual purposes. And this is just.
But then it's like, but it's not only that; it's an alternate universe or an alternate timeline.
And
it's yeah.
Admittedly, I think about an hour and a half into the movie, there was still about a half hour left. I kind of said, I know what I think about this, and I kind of stopped listening to a lot of it. So there might be some things.
How could you listen to anything?
Yeah. There might be some things toward the end where we'll go, how in the world is this? And maybe it is explainable. But this movie on a whole is just so insane. And it follows this weird formula where just about every scene, there's some sort of twist or major plot point. And then the next scene, Arnold Schwarzenegger has to explain what that means. I joked and said he was the T exposition model because this whole movie, he's just spouting exposition. And genuinely, I don't know how we're even going to get through describing this movie.
Me neither.
It is so crazy.
I have a faraway look in my eyes because I have no idea.
Well, and I will say this, I was laughing for a lot of this movie.
Me too.
Because
a lot of gasping.
It just every time, like at the beginning of the movie when they just recreated the exact shots from the Terminator, I'm going, what?
But
why?
Like it kind of weird ones, sort of.
Yeah, it was so weird. But
yeah.
let's talk a little bit of the production, unless you have any more to add right at the get-go. No. Okay, we are cooking cookies, so we have to...
It's called baking.
Well, baking cookies. Shouldn't they be called bakies? Because a cookie? A bakey? Because you're baking them?
Oh, I've never thought about that in my life.
Yeah, hello. Get me that Netflix special, my stand-up special. So this movie, we've talked about this director before. It's Alan Taylor, who directed Thor: The Dark World. I have only seen that in this movie.
What else has he done?
Far... I don't remember. I just know that we covered him. So see Thor: The Dark World to find that out. The movie is written by
Game of Thrones.
Oh, yeah. He did 7 episodes of Game of Thrones. That's how he knew Emilia Clarke.
Okay.
So there might be some good there. I don't like that show, but there might be some good there. So it's written by Leta Kalogridis, who he wrote Catwoman, starring Halle Berry. One of the writers on Avatar, Shutter Island, The House with the Clock in Its Walls.
Okay.
So there's some good stuff in there. Patrick Lussier, who wrote Drive Angry 3D and Dracula 2000, amongst other things that I hadn't heard of. The music is by Lauren Balfe, who did the music for Mission Impossible Fallout, one of my favorite scores.
Oh, cool.
And cinematography is by Kramer Morgenthau, who did Dogtown, Chef, Thor: The Dark World.
Okay.
And this movie comes out July 1st, 2015. It has it has a budget of $155 million. And domestically, the movie makes $89.7 million.
It's too much money.
That's so little money.
Too much.
That is like a
I feel bad for anyone who had to pay money to see this.
yeah. But I mean, it's been a while. New Terminator movie.
Well, that's just an indication that everyone's done.
I know, because worldwide, I actually think this is kind of wild. Worldwide, the movie makes $440.6 million.
Wow, that's shocking.
Which is not a hit.
I'm curious
but
if there's like one country, like if it's China.
It's a lot of China, because it was one of the rare movies that made more in China than it did in the U.S. There's like 2 or 3 movies where that happens, like a American movie that does that.
That's weird.
So it pretty much bombs domestically. Americans are like kind of over this.
Mm-hmm.
And it is funny because I'll go over the box office next week on our final Terminator episode, but all signs point to people are not interested in this as a series anymore. So stop making them. So if you'll remember, there was the company Halcyon or Halcyon.
Yeah.
They go bankrupt in 2009. A couple of months after.
Another company? Oh, wait. Is it the same from the last?
Yes.
Okay.
So this company goes bankrupt in 2009.
Yeah.
And the franchise rights are auctioned off to Pacificor, who then sell the rights in May.
Okay.
Before sale, Hanover House, another company, wants to make a Terminator 3000 3D animated movie.
Animated movie?
Yeah.
Fascinating.
That sounds more fun.
Yeah. Change the medium.
Yeah. But Pacificor shuts them down and will not let them make it. Sends them a cease and desist and is like, no way.
Oh.
And then Justin Lin, who directed a couple of the Fast and Furious movies, or maybe several, at least 2. He is set to direct 5. Here we go. And then Anna Perna.
It would at least be more interesting action-wise.
Yeah. Anna Perna gets the rights to make 2 movies. So here we go. We're going to make 2 movies back to back. Justin Lin, number 5. Let's go. And then Justin Lin drops off because it's taking way too long to get the movie off the ground so that he can direct Fast and Furious 6. And then they talk to, amongst others, but they see if they can get Rian Johnson, Denis Villeneuve, and Ang Lee.
Holy crap. It would have been a vastly different movie in so many ways. It would have redefined the genre, probably.
Yeah. I know all 3 of those are so interesting.
Ang Lee would actually be really fascinating because he's done things for film that James Cameron has also tried, like pushing film forward.
Yeah, with the frame rate stuff.
That would have been crazy interesting.
Yeah. So they all pass on it. And then they wanted to make this movie establish that Terminator is a multiverse.
Oh, what idiot came up with that idea?
But so in the movie, we talked about how they had to recreate scenes. But they recreated exactly how the shots were done. They didn't do, in Endgame, when they went back to the Battle of New York, they showed different angles and stuff like that. They just were recreating the exact shots, same acting and everything. They could not get the rights to use the first movie.
But they would have if they could.
Yes. So I think they would have, say, that whole first scene with Arnold showing up that occurs in the first movie in 1984. I think they would have used that whole sequence.
Interesting.
And Bill Paxton and then CG had old Arnold come in to attack him. I just don't.
They didn't put a tire tattoo on that guy's face.
They didn't. No. Good call. I didn't mean good call. I meant good catch, because I did not notice that they didn't put the tire thing until you said it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. No, they should have.
Yeah.
If you're going to do it.
Instead, he just looks like the lead singer of Green Day.
Yeah.
Like this guy.
Billy Joe Armstrong.
Okay.
So this is just, this quote, it kind of has a tinge of sadness to it.
Okay.
So this is one of the producers of the movie. So after the film was released and everything, they talked to him and they asked him, I don't know who they is, but somebody asked him about the film's title, Genisys. And if you do not know, listener, it's spelled Genisys. And I remember when this was coming out, it was a big joke. Everyone thought the title was hilarious and stupid. And also, even in researching this movie and stuff, I would always forget where the Y was. It's such a confusing title.
Yeah.
And he said it didn't work. The actual thought process behind it was we were kind of playing on words a la Google, and it's a reference to Genisys, which is in reference to the singularity and the man-machine hybrid that John Connor ends up beginning. Also, if you pronounce a different way, it signals a new beginning. So it was kind of a play on words, and it did not come across that way. Which is just kind of, it's a little bit sad. You know, you can hear like an older man just kind of going, that's what we tried to do, and it was stupid, and we shouldn't have done that.
I guess I understand the trying to make it a unique branding kind of thing.
Yeah.
But boy, it did not work.
So then sequels to this movie. So remember, Terminator Salvation, they go, okay, this is going to be a new trilogy. The first movie gets made, doesn't do all that well, so they go, okay, we're canceling the trilogy. Then they start this movie and they go, awesome, this is going to be a new trilogy. And we'll follow that theme next week as well.
Really?
Sequels to Terminator Genisys were scheduled for release on May 19th, 2017 and June 29th, 2018 under the tentative titles of Terminator 2 and Terminator 3. And they were all canceled. In January 2016, the planned Terminator 2 was removed from Paramount's release schedule.
Yeah.
And Jason Clarke has this to say about the canceled Genisys sequel. What I remember was that second one was going to be about John's journey after he was taken by Skynet.
No.
Like going down to what he became, half machine, half man.
No.
That's where the second one was going to start, and that's about all I knew. It's such a bummer we didn't get to do that.
It's not, though.
But Amelia had something to say about the movie. Amelia said no one had a good time on set and was relieved that she would not have to make any more movies.
What does that mean? That's all you have?
Well, this is a quote. Now,
from her?
Folks.
Oh, you have another quote?
Well, and I'm sorry, this is not a quote.
Okay.
It's just a copy and paste.
Okay.
But folks, if you remember our Halloween special, our first one ever was Fantastic Four, where we talked about the disaster of Fantastic Four 2015, Josh Trank's movie. So remember that. Remember how crazy that production was and the editing. It was just a mess.
Yeah.
The actress remembered the Genisys production being so bad that word spread to the set of Josh Trank's equally as chaotic Fantastic Four set, which was filming nearby. Clarke said that crew members on Fantastic Four responded to news about their own troubled production by wearing jackets that read, "At least we're not on Terminator."
What?
So it just sounds like it just was a horrible set. She didn't seem to say it was a hostile set. I think it was just the
probably
kind of
really
thing.
Disorganized, and she read the script and was like, maybe even offered the part. I don't know where she's really at in her career. I know she's in Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
But it's like, yeah, this is good money and it's a franchise. This would be good for me.
Yeah.
And she's doing it, and then she's like, I don't know what's going on. I don't know how to act. So I guess I'll just watch Terminator 1 and 2 and see how Linda Hamilton did it. And like try to copy every tiny thing about her, and then it's like, honey, you're not Linda Hamilton, though. It didn't work because I could tell that she was
imitating her.
I
could tell.
That's a good way to put it. It felt more like an imitation than it did acting.
Because it's the kind of thing. If this was a fan film, I would think, or like a short YouTube video
Yeah.
or something, I'd go, man, she nailed Linda Hamilton.
Yeah.
But since it's a movie and it's a professional actress, it's like, get out of here with your Linda Hamilton impression. Like, this sucks.
Yeah. I didn't buy it.
Not for a second. Yeah, so that is the production notes I have on the movie.
Okay. That's wild.
It is so wild. And let's hear about those actors. We're going to talk about some wild actors on this movie.
Amelia Clarke, we covered her. I don't think so.
I don't think so.
So she is, like we said, she plays Daenerys.
Daenerys.
Daenerys. Anyone who's watched Game of Thrones, do you know what I'm talking about?
And you're mad at us.
She marries the Dothraki. That's all I remember because I tried watching the show twice.
Who's Jason Momoa?
Yeah, couldn't get into it. And then she's also in Me Before You. She's in Solo, Late Christmas, Thunderbirds. What? Hold on a second. Voices from the Stone, The One, Animals, Robot Chicken.
Okay, I think we got her.
Yeah, I think so too. J.K. Simmons is in this movie as well, bringing us the only exciting performance. Have we covered him?
I think we would have in our... No, I don't know.
Well, I'll just say the highlights. He's J. Jonah Jameson. Oh.
Yeah.
Well, I probably didn't talk about him in that. But J. Jonah Jameson in Spider-Man, the Sam Raimi trilogy. He's in La La Land, Whiplash, which he won an Academy Award for.
Yeah.
He's also in Juno. He's great. We love him.
We love JK.
Matt Smith is in this movie, billed as Matthew Smith, and I think it's because he knew what was to come during production, maybe, and was like, bill me as Matthew Smith, so people are a little bit more confused and can't find me.
Well, because when his credit came up, which, by the way, the credits in this movie are so long, it was so distracting.
Yeah.
But it says Matthew Smith, and you said...
I was like, that's not Matt Smith,
and
right?
I said, no. And then we see him.
Yeah.
It's crazy that he got billing in this movie.
Because he's so barely in it.
Yeah.
But it's at the same time, though, because he's been a doctor at this point.
Yes.
So he's Doctor Who the year before and the season before. He's also in The Crown. He's going to be in Morbius, I guess.
Oh, no.
He was in His House that just came out on Netflix. Highly recommend that movie.
Yes, my number one of 2020.
He's also in Lost
so far.
River. Is that what it's called?
Yes.
The
Ryan Gosling's movie.
The movie that we started and we didn't finish because we were tired, I think. So I still have never seen it.
I have seen it though, folks. I've seen the whole movie. Don't ever drag me down to that level.
That's Matt Smith. I mean, he's in a ton of stuff too.
His role in this movie was reading and seeing that there was a stupid post-credit scene in this movie. Definitely reeks of we had more plans for him later.
Oh, sure.
You know what I mean?
Totally.
Hiring a great actor like that and then just having them in the movie for 10 minutes seems like a waste.
Sure. Did Courtney B. Vance get billing?
He did.
That's wild. He was in it for a second.
Oh, he what?
For a
Yeah,
second.
he was in one scene. He had, I think, 2 or 3 lines.
Maybe. Yeah.
Good. You know what? I say good for him for wringing some money out of this franchise.
Oh, that's fine. I just think keep it a cameo.
That is insane that he got billing.
Whatever. He's in The Hunt for Red October, Space Cowboys, Lovecraft Country, Uncorked, Ben is Black, Isle of Dog. Ben is back. Isle of Dogs.
The People vs. O.J. Simpson.
Oh, that's right. He plays Cochran.
Yes.
The defendant for OJ.
Yeah.
Yeah, he is
Which is
crazy.
a great season of television. Highly worth
Both
watching.
seasons of American Crime Story.
Oh yeah, because the second one really got under my skin and in the way it should.
Yeah. Yep.
I mean, it was horrifying.
And then Byung-hun Lee plays T-1000.
Oh, okay.
He is in I Saw the Devil. The movie. Yeah. I Saw the Devil, A Bittersweet Life, The Good, the Bad, the Weird. He's in a lot of Korean stuff because he's from Korea. He's in The Magnificent Seven.
The new movie. Well, yeah, of course. He wasn't
yeah.
around for the old one.
Anyway, yeah, that's him. Okay, and then we have Jason Clarke, who plays John Connor. Woof.
Jordan, please take it away. This is your time to talk about Jason Clarke.
Jason Clarke is consistently miscasted in movies, in my opinion. I'm not saying he's a bad actor, but when he is miscasted in a movie with a bad director, he is like one of the worst actors currently working. So he's in Zero Dark 30. I remember him being fine in that.
He's good in that movie. Yes.
Well casted.
Good director.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that. I think that he is best suited for being casted in things that have to do with like Prohibition era.
Yeah.
He's
got an old face. He looks
like
man.
He's from the early 1900s. He truly does. Put him in movies like that up to the 1960s. That's my cutoff for him.
Well, because
he's in Lawless.
Yeah, sorry.
Which is about prohibition, but perfect in that movie from my memory. He was great. He's also in Devil All the Time. Pretty dang good in that movie too.
Yeah.
He's in Mudbound, which takes place, looks like maybe during the 40s, 50s, or 60s.
That's the
I'm
way to
sure
go.
He's good in it. I'm sure. He's also in Everest. He's in Pet Sematary.
I think he's okay in Everest.
Which was
he's awful
bummer of a movie
in that, but I don't think that's his fault.
Bad directing.
That is a bad script.
Who directed that movie?
I think that the script is the biggest problem in that movie.
I agree, but
here was a weird thing. I felt like that year that Pet Sematary came out, and maybe the year before, he was also in Winchester.
Oh, that was the movie I wanted to touch on.
Yeah.
He sucked in that movie. Also, that movie was not good.
Yes.
Sorry.
But what I wanted to say is I think there was a moment there, and I don't know because I haven't really seen much after those of his, where it seemed like he was making the move of, I'm going to be a horror guy.
Sure.
He's not that guy. He's not the hero in a horror movie. What are you talking about?
It's almost like he's not conventional enough to be your leading guy in things.
Yeah.
And then, he's not like indie enough to be in horror movies.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
And then when we were watching this movie, I was like, he just needs to be a bad guy in like a movie. I was thinking more a Marvel movie. He just needs to be.
Oh, keep him out of there. He would be awful in a Marvel movie.
Not a bad guy like he was in this movie. This movie, it's just we've all seen a guy in a business suit giving monologues.
Yeah.
But like a weird villain. I want to see how weird he can get.
Yeah.
As a villain. And the only thing I think of is a comic book gives him the power to do that.
And I don't want to be like too rude, but he has really sharp teeth. They're like fangs. and seriously, when I see him, I cannot buy that he's a good guy. So when he's like,
that's why yeah.
Like when he's brooding, that can work. But when he's, like a family man or something like that, no way.
I felt like he was super, super well casted in that because he was weird. And he was a bad person.
And he's got those sharp teeth, yes.
But it was like a very strange performance.
Uh-huh.
And I think because the writing was good for that movie and the directing, I think, was good for that movie. So he had good direction in this. But he did seem like a character that had layers to him.
Yes.
In Winchester, there was this moment where, I wish this was right now a visual medium where I could like Google this in front of everyone and like show them the clip. Because there's like a moment where he's like walking downstairs and like, he's kind of looking at the house and he like touches something and he kind of giggles. Don't know why. It wasn't like a comedic relief kind of thing.
It just happened.
It was like they did one or two takes of that and they accidentally put in the wrong one. It was I think I had to rewind it.
Because you were that confused.
It was so confusing that what was happening. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think he's just an enigma to me. I don't think he's a bad actor.
I don't think so either.
And I just don't think they figured it out yet.
No. He hasn't like found his lane.
Yeah.
So I
think he needs to stop making, and maybe he will, because Devil All the Time was a nice supporting performance.
Yeah.
Maybe he'll stop making the main character play.
Yeah.
Because I don't think he's got the lead actor in him.
Lawless, I remember being more of like an ensemble type thing.
I think he's Tom Hardy's brother, and Tom Hardy was much more the lead. And I think even Shia LaBeouf was more.
Yeah.
So
I wonder if that movie's good still.
I rewatched it a couple years ago. It was great.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Cool.
I think every time you mention it, you ask that, and I say, I rewatched it, and it was great. And you go, oh, okay.
That's good.
Cool. It's like you don't believe me. It's a good movie.
I don't believe you.
I know you don't.
Also in this movie is Jai Courtney, and before Micah gets to go off on his thing,
Because
I
just
just want to say like what else he's in. He's in Divergent, I guess.
Yes.
Suicide Squad. He plays Boomerang. He is in A Good Day to Die Hard. Wait a second.
That's the 5th Die Hard movie that is universally panned and the only one I've never seen. But I know at some
What is
point
universally panned?
everyone said we hate this movie.
Oh, okay.
Critics, audience members, no one
he's
liked
like
that
his
movie.
son.
Yes. So, can I jump into
Wait,
Jai?
hold on.
I gotta jump some Jai.
He's also an honest thief, so he's been able to act with Arnold Schwarzenegger, Bruce Willis, Liam Neeson, and Will Smith.
And Shailene Woodley, Divergent. Come on.
Yeah, I guess. He's in Alita Battle Angel, so I don't know if we should watch that movie. We've been kind of on the fence about it.
But he is an uncredited role in the movie, so it's probably a short little cameo.
Okay.
Now let me talk about Jai Courtney, because last week you'll remember I talked about oh my gosh, what is his name? He was the Terminator in the last movie. Terminator
Sam
Salvation.
Worthington.
I talked about Sam Worthington and how Hollywood decided this is the guy and they jammed him down our throats. Now, Jai Courtney, they tried so hard to jam this guy down our throats, and he is awful. He is a horrible actor. Everything I've seen him in, it is just insane, the performance that he gives. But they started jamming him down our throats in 2012. He plays Charlie in Jack Reacher, so he's acted with Tom Cruise too.
That's unbelievable.
Then the next year, he's in A Good Day to Die Hard. Now, if you are in an action franchise that is as iconic as A Good Day to Die Hard, and they go, you're the son of the lead character, that's Hollywood's way of saying, this is the next action guy.
Uh-huh.
You know? He's in I, Frankenstein, Divergent, Unbroken, The Water Diviner, whatever that movie is, another Divergent. And then he's in Terminator Genisys, which probably...
It's them further opening the door for him.
Yeah,
he plays
that
Kyle
should have
Reese.
been like, that's it.
Yeah.
Like, you are on top of the world. People don't like him. And then he's Boomerang in Suicide Squad. Horrible movie.
Yeah.
I think that performance is not the worst performance in that movie, which is crazy. But
It's funny. I have blocked most of that movie out of my memory.
Oh,
I hardly remember anything. I remember he's
so
carrying
much
around
of
a
it.
stuffed unicorn.
Yeah.
And then I remember there's like a Margot Robbie butt shot. And then I remember the reptile dude
Yeah.
who was cool.
Yeah.
Makeup wise was cool.
Yes. Yeah. Makeup wise. Yeah. I agree with that.
That's
part.
really... And they wear collars. That's all I remember.
What is this? Some kind of Suicide Squad? I remember that's a line in the movie.
Yeah.
So, and now he's, he is an honest thief, like you said, which was #1 at the box office a couple weeks ago.
What is that?
It's like a Liam Neeson thriller.
Okay.
It's it came out at the right time to be #1 at the box office.
A movie about raccoons, killer raccoons, was #1 for comedy for several weeks. So it's an interesting year.
Well, I think as has been the case, the more kind of lower budget action or even horror movies are the ones that have been playing well in the pandemic.
Which totally makes sense.
Yeah.
And that's awesome. I
And then
love that killer raccoons or whatever are having a fun time.
Yeah. And something like Tenet, it's just not...
No one wants that.
No one wants to see a movie that drives that they have to figure out while they're also going home and having to figure things out.
Yeah, right.
Can't wait to watch it safely at home, and I'm excited for that. But so should we jump in?
Mm-hmm.
So this movie begins with Kyle Reese, played by Jai Courtney, going
monologuing.
through this monologue that's describing like
everything we already know.
It was called Judgment Day. Judgment Day didn't happen, but now it's happening again. And here's what's weird. This movie treats you like you're new to the franchise. So it says, we're kind of it's a reboot, soft reboot, but it still includes the other stuff, and we want to take you along, and you don't really have to know the other movies. That's fine.
But we're gonna explain it all to you anyway.
But so they do all this explanation, but then you watch the movie, and if you do not have a deep understanding of the Terminator universe, this movie has no logic at all. It already has no logic, but they could not decide what they wanted to do. And so everything is like,
oh my gosh, it was so
it's like
insane.
over-explained, but then at the same time, they'll just infer something about time travel that we didn't see on screen and just kind of be like, oh yeah, and then, this happened, whatever. And it prevented that thing. And you're kind of like, oh, I just watched 4 of these movies.
Should have started take out this whole beginning part, and it should just have opened with them discovering the time machine.
Oh, yeah.
Which would cut out what felt like 30 minutes of the movie, but was probably only 3.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would have been much more interesting. Start with confidence. If you're gonna reboot a series, just start it with confidence, like it's the first thing, and you have help because you have previous movies to guide you on how to do it.
And the perfect reboot is Mad Max Fury Road, which we've talked about on this podcast.
They don't explain an effing thing.
They don't explain, and what this movie would need if it was going to be a reboot, like a good reboot, is it needs to. I got so distracted by that car driving by that I couldn't keep my train of thought. But in Mad Max, you can watch Mad Max 4 and not watch any of the other movies, and you get it. But if you've watched the other 3, it adds to it.
Oh, yeah.
And that's what a proper reboot should do.
Yeah.
And this, again, if you don't have intimate knowledge of who these characters are and everything, it really doesn't make any sense at all.
No.
Also, if you do have an intimate knowledge, as we do, it doesn't make any sense at all.
No.
So they go to the time portal that we've heard so much about in all these movies. And John Connor is going to send Kyle Reese into the portal.
So okay. So it's a ton of people, a large crew here. And then you see Matt Smith in it all, and you're like, oh, I guess he is in this movie.
Yeah.
When does this figure into his career? And then see the beginning, more previous of this episode. But John and Kyle have
you just said you asked them to rewind.
Yeah.
Rewind, listen to that, come back to this
part. We probably have talked about Matt Smith more than he was actually in the movie. Yeah. But yeah, Kyle and John have okay, no. Let's start with this. They find it, and then they know that it has just been used. They just sent back a Terminator. And John knows because of his mom telling him this throughout his life. And then he's like, someone needs to go back there. And everyone's like, I'll do it. And then Kyle's like, I'll do it. And John says, why should I let you do it? And it's like, let's get rid of the crap. Just send him through it. We don't need to have this little song and dance about it. But
because he knows it has to be him.
Yeah.
That's the paradox of the whole situation.
So then, but Kyle's like, I know your mom. I know everything about her.
And he has a picture, and it's the recreation of the Linda Hamilton in the Jeep, which for some reason I was so offended that they recreated that picture.
I know, because you do use it in every movie.
Yeah.
But, John and Kyle have a moment. They're talking about stuff. I guess John's just kind of trying to prime him for what he's about to embark on, in the 1980s. And what kind of person his mom is going to be. She's not going to be some strong woman. She's going to be weak and confused.
Yeah.
She's a waitress, to which Kyle's like, what's a waitress?
And he goes,
don't worry about it.
Forget about it.
Then he goes. At first I know this is kind of a fun nitpick thing, but it's he starts walking up in pants, and it's you can't wear those.
Yeah.
When I think right before this, they might have shown Arnold, the recreated scene. It might be right after this, though.
It's after this.
Okay. But, yeah, so he gets put through, and this scene is forever.
The time portal takes forever.
It shows forever.
John getting grabbed by Matt Smith and turning red in the face.
To which we don't see, we don't get any explanation for, 45 minutes, which I guess sometimes for a movie is pretty typical.
It's like an hour when they reveal the John Connor thing. Okay, so he gets sent back.
But he has all these visions about a life that he never had.
Yeah. So he has this dual, like his head is kind of being ripped apart because, well, not really. Yeah. He's seeing these visions when he was a child, and he sees Sarah Connor tell him this thing, and we will get to that in a second.
I have a question.
Actually, okay, hang on. Hold on to your question. Before we go back, I did realize I do get people wanting to tell the story of the Future Wars, but obviously the more we talk about the series, the more we don't need to see the Future Wars. It can be like a Genndy Tartakovsky directed beautiful cartoon show. That's what that can be.
Yeah.
Don't make it a feature film, okay?
No.
Because although Salvation could have been a good movie, they just needed to fix some stuff. Anyway, doesn't matter.
That movie was way more tangible than this one.
Absolutely. That movie and even Terminator 3 look like 10 out of 10 masterpieces compared to this movie. This movie is so far down. It's crazy. But I realized when John Connor's sitting there and he's about to send Kyle Reese, I was realizing, oh, this scene doesn't work at all because he knows that it needs to be that he needs to send Kyle Reese. Because when you watch Terminator, you don't know that John Connor knows that he needs to send that specific person. So it seems like a random person gets sent back.
Oh, yeah, because when he gets sent back, he knows everything that he needs to do, right? Wait, what are you saying?
I'm saying the fun mystery of the Terminator is like Kyle Reese gets sent back and he happens to fall in love with Linda Hamilton, is how it feels when you watch the movie.
Yeah.
If you think about the paradox too hard, John Connor grows up and he does those actions, it loses the effect of the movie when you show that scene of him going, yeah, I'll send Kyle Reese, I guess.
Yeah.
But he already knows.
Yeah.
It loses the effect.
I agree. Yeah.
And also they broke the time loop because of the end of Judgment Day, but that doesn't matter apparently. So we get back to 1984.
Okay, I have a question.
Okay.
So does this future take place in 2029?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So
this movie's so crazy.
at one point they do go to 2017.
Yeah, because that's the key. That's Genisys.
Whatever. So at that point, and I know this is now like an alternate time.
Yeah.
However, Kyle Reese is now a kid. Like he's there as as Jai Courtney. But then there's also a kid version of him.
Yes.
Does that mean he would have been a kid in 2017?
Yes.
Okay. I was so confused.
No, they're two different people, I think.
That gives me a headache, and I'm really pissed right now thinking about it.
Because it's memories he didn't have. He like gets them after going out through the time portal because they're in a parallel universe, I think. Is the idea that is not. So am I wrong in that they never really truly explain how this is a multiverse?
They don't explain it for a second. I mean, maybe they did when they were in the truck with
because we talked
Sarah
through some of the
Connor.
dialogue because we got really
oh my
bored.
gosh, how can you hold on to anything for longer than 30 seconds in this movie? But like, yeah, I have no idea how any of it worked. I have no idea, and I'm getting more frustrated as I talk about it.
Because, I mean, now granted, this is comparing a 1 out of 10 movie to a perfect movie, but Spider-Verse was very coherent in how it explained a multiverse, and we saw these different Spider-Men, and it was crazy, and it's a perfect movie. It's a masterpiece. But this movie, they just kind of show up. Arnold shows up, and then an old Arnold shows up, and then later you find out Sarah Connor was raised by a Terminator because they sent one back before that. That does not make any sense to me. Right? Am I right?
So it's a different universe, but I don't even like want to. I think I'm having such a hard time figuring it out because it just doesn't work.
Yeah, and I really don't think that we're too stupid to understand it. I don't think it's that kind of a situation.
It's just like time travel is already so complicated, and we're on the fifth movie about time travel for the same series, which means it only gets more complicated. And you want to introduce another universe into it? No. You can't.
No.
And you shouldn't.
Then we cut to 1984, a recreation of some of the first scenes in the first movie.
Yeah.
Arnold shows up. Remember, they had to recreate it. So it is a CGI Arnold Schwarzenegger, young Arnold Schwarzenegger.
He's in a circle and it puts an indentation in the ground.
Yeah.
When Kyle Reese shows up, it doesn't do that.
Yeah, because remember, he didn't go through the portal correctly.
Yeah, but when Arnold showed... Wait, what?
Remember, it gets like bumped or something, and he almost falls out of it or something like that. Because
let's just keep going. I don't want to know.
He reaches out to John Connor, and it sends him flailing, and then he falls out of the
There
sky.
is a John Connor and Kyle Reese are in love in this movie,
which is weird because it's father and son.
Because it's father and son, but they are in love with each other.
Oh, they so are. They absolutely are.
Yeah.
So it's just so mind-boggling. So they chose to do what they did in 4, which is CGI a young Arnold Schwarzenegger. I get the impulse to do that. Maybe just don't do it, though.
Yeah.
Please.
Yeah.
Again, his eyes are dead. Mm-hmm. And Arnold Schwarzenegger he is the Terminator. Mm-hmm. So stop.
Then he goes to the punks to talk about getting some clothes, and then old Arnold shows up and they fight him. Yeah,
and then they're fighting, and then here was a huge problem I had with the movie. Huge problem. Terminator 1, Terminator 2, they are shown as indestructible, like unbeatable machines.
And she just shoots him in the heart.
She just shoots him in the heart with like a special bullet. It's like a silver bullet to a werewolf, and that Terminator, the unstoppable Terminator that we saw an entire movie about, just was done. Just like that. And I just think that that's so cheap. And that's such a... I just hate that kind of stuff in movies where they take back something in a previous movie that was so intense.
Universe? Huh?
And so then we see this whole recreation of Kyle Reese coming back, and then we have this. Okay.
Oh, so a police officer shows up in the alley to confront him, and it's a T-1000. You're like, oh, they're doing everything.
Well, and I remember seeing the trailer for this movie and going, wait, so they just made Terminator 1 and 2 but one movie? And then watching the movie, I'm like, okay, I got that dead on.
Yeah.
Because the T-1000, he acts exactly the same way that Robert Patrick does, but like Arnold and the Terminator, it's not Robert Patrick, so I think it's kind of lame. And then they even recreate certain movements, like the way he gets shot and the way he uses his swords and stuff, which, of course, you could argue it's a robot and they have to act that way. But
yeah, but then he gets... I mean, I know he comes back a little bit later. Oh, he comes back like... Okay, so they get him off their tail. Yeah. There's a ton of exposition in a truck.
Yes.
And then they catch up to them like 10 minutes later, and then they kill it, and it's just gone. So it's
is this the acid scene?
Yeah, but it's like one of the most formidable things that you brought into this is just killed.
So,
which I get, whatever.
I think this is important to get into because we kind of talked about this last night, but I want the audience to hear. I'm thinking about this movie, and when the acid drops on the T-1000 and it just kind of disintegrates, I'm going, how come I don't feel any stakes at all? And I'm confused by the action. One, the action is very poorly shot. It's very how people just shoot action without any creativity. Mm-hmm. We're going harsh on this movie, and I'm able to stand by it. I'm not going to give an excuse. But Cameron does an amazing job of when you watch one of his movies, for the most part, you know where things are geographically, and you know, there's that scene where they're fighting for the gun. If Cameron directed that scene, he would show that gun multiple times and show it in conjunction to the hero before the hero grabs it and shoots the T-1000. In this, you saw the gun, then it's gone for a long time, and then he just gets thrown through a wall. The gun's right there. That's not very suspenseful.
At one point.
Yeah, it's not suspenseful filmmaking.
No.
Because each action scene should have suspense. That's the main drive of action.
Yeah.
And so then I was thinking about the scene in Terminator 2 where the nitrogen goes all over him and he freezes, and then the steel stuff falls on him later. And how when you're watching the movie, it's so set up. The nitrogen is a little bit of a twist, but since it doesn't kill him, it works. But you see the molten steel stuff so much that when it happens, it's more of a, of course that's how they got him. That had to be how they got him. That was their only option. Much like the presser in the first movie, rather than just a random thing.
Right.
And I know that after the scene where they get the T-1000, get the acid, it's like, oh, Sarah rigged this whole thing. But it just seems like they just made it up, and they didn't set it up at all. It just melted in acid.
It also seems, too, because in the exposition scene when they're driving and they're explaining things to Kyle, it feels like, this is just how I remember it, that the T-1000 like catches up to them and they happen to like be at a warehouse, like in the location of a warehouse. That's happenstance based on how, like, the wrong time of when it found them. And then suddenly it's like their fortress, like their bat cave.
Yeah.
And it's like, I thought this was an accident, that they like got stopped before they got to their destination.
You're right, yeah.
That's how it felt.
And I was still paying attention at that point in the movie.
I kind of was.
But then, so then this is when they decide, this is just mind-boggling. So they have to stop Judgment Day. A phrase that I'm beginning to hate. By the end of the series, I think I'm going to be tired of saying and hearing that. But they're in there and they have their own time travel portal. How did they build it? I don't know. It was probably explained in a sentence that doesn't make a lot of sense.
I mean, if he came there when she was 9, I guess they've had time.
Whatever. I think it's stupid. But they have it, and then not Linda Hamilton. I'm
Sarah
so
Connor.
sorry. Sarah Connor goes, okay, we have to travel to 1997, stop Skynet. And I'm thinking, okay, you have to do what you did in the second movie. I get it. So they're getting ready to do that. And then Jai Courtney goes, no, we have to go to 2017. She says,
oh, yeah.
Why?
And then he's like, I don't know. I had like a funny dream when I came here.
Yeah. And then
that's it.
And she goes, no, we're not going to do that.
And like and there have been so many movies where in a storyline someone makes a decision based on like a gut feeling, or they saw one, like they had a vision and they just had to go with it because of it. But in a movie that's more well made, it's like there's weight put on that. This is just like, I don't know, maybe you shouldn't go there.
Right.
You're not very convincing.
And this is when Arnold explains what a nexus point is, and he says something about
everyone forgets. Everyone stops listening.
Yeah, like Judgment Day can
Honestly,
create like multiple timelines.
This goes into the realm of sci-fi when they're trying to explain terms.
Yeah.
And it's like, whether or not this is making it up, I don't know what it is. But as soon as I hear the words nexus point, I am no longer listening. Because that's not why I'm watching a movie, to learn about time travel. I just want to know that time travel is a thing. This guy used to be here. Now he's here. That's all I need to know about time travel. I don't need to know how it works.
Yeah.
Like in Looper, they just get into maybe a machine. You don't even really see it. Someone appears out of nowhere.
Yeah.
That's all you know about how time travel works in that movie. And it's brilliant. Because I don't need to know how it works.
And I can get down with some exposition in terms of scientific stuff, because that's fun for me. But I think you're right.
Good version of that, Interstellar.
Yeah,
so much exposition in that, and I loved it. It's easy to understand for me.
Yeah,
or it was. I mean, you did have to watch it more than once to really get it, but that's kind of a Christopher Nolan movie.
But I think I lost that thought I was going to present. So
yeah, he's saying words about things, and then they're like, okay, let's just do it. Let's go to 2017. And then there's a moment when they're both undressing with like a locker in between them because they're about to time travel. And Kyle's confessing his love for John Reese in this scene.
John Connor.
John Connor. And, that's
he
about
reminisces.
It.
He says, one time me and John, we made moonshine, but it didn't work out.
We were laughing for days.
All day. Yeah, days. And I'm going,
he's like, I think I'm one of the only people who's ever really seen him smile.
And I go, what is this movie?
Yeah.
And it's there's this annoying will they, won't they chemistry that they're trying to present with a lot of kind of like, well, I don't know about you, but I have work to do.
And it's one
but
of those...
I'm a little bit sexy.
And two, it's like, she's like, oh, no. Terminator keeps telling her that they need to mate because that is, like, you need to conceive John. You need to do it. So he keeps telling her that. And she's like, I don't have to do any of that. Like, this is alternate. This isn't like, doesn't mean anything anymore because now I'm independent and I know how everything works.
But it's told in snappy jokes.
Yeah, so it never really feels like she's empowered, if that's what they're going for.
Yeah. And then they get in the time machine.
And they go, and Terminator can't go because he lost some of his skin. So he has to stay behind and like wait 30 years.
Which I like that idea.
That's interesting.
But they don't really do anything with it. But
no, they don't.
Before we go with that, one note I have is, why should we believe any movie that says that they can stop Judgment Day at this point?
That's a good point.
Okay.
So they go through it and they like show up in the middle of a freeway and it's just two naked people holding each other. And that's weird. And then Kyle Reese gets hit by a freaking car. And there was not one scratch on his body. Full on hit by a car. No scratch on his body. And then it just continues to be weird. They like hold on to them being naked and holding each other. And him saying like, I got you. And it's like, I'm just looking at her boobs right now. Cut to the next scene. I don't care. So then they get arrested. They're in a hospital. And J.K. Simmons is finally introduced.
And he's decent in this movie. He's a guy.
I mean, he's J.K. Simmons, so he's great.
Yeah, he was the cop from earlier in the movie. And he believes in the robots and is trying to break the case of figuring out the robot time traveling stuff. So he's kind of appearing in scenes just being like, wow, that's what I thought was happening.
Yeah.
Cool. So at some point, there is a sequence where, again, we see Sarah Connor tracing, like, Jai Courtney is having a flashback, and it's Sarah Connor tracing her finger on his palm and saying something like, don't look back, always keep moving forward. And it's used in the movie. Oh, actually, it's used before they time travel.
Yeah. This is what he does to convince her to go.
Yeah, and this is a trope in movies that I absolutely hate, where it's something so general and not specific. Saying, don't look back, you need to move forward, is not a specific thing to bring up to someone, where if I said, Jordan, you need to trust me because I saw in the future that you said, don't look back, always look forward, and you touched my hand like this. You wouldn't go, oh my gosh, that's what my dad used to always do. We need to go there. Make it so specific that it would be impossible for another person to have that thought. You know what I'm saying?
100%.
Make it so crazy that it's not something that I may have said 2 days ago before I walked into the theater.
It's like when you're watching a romantic comedy and it's poorly written, and the two characters who were gonna fall out of love, and fall into love by the end of the movie, they're like getting to know each other.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, you like that fun thing too? I'm so weird. I like that too. That's what it feels like. It's like that. No one talks like that, or like that's not genuine. No one like forms a relationship based on that dumb interest that you have together.
It's like if someone says something like, well, I know it's an unpopular opinion, but I actually really like The Dark Knight. I know that's not a popular opinion.
Exactly.
And you go, yeah, it is. Everybody likes that movie.
Yeah.
Or the Beatles are pretty good. I like the Beatles. Yes. Okay. So does everybody.
Yeah.
That doesn't make you unique. You're not a snowflake.
You're not a beautiful, unique snowflake.
Yeah. Fight
You
Club.
are not your car.
You are not your corduroy pants. So John Connor shows up at the hospital.
Oh gosh.
I forgot about this already. So what do we have to say about John Connor? Because what they do is they take
the basically the savior they take the savior of humanity throughout the series and they turn him into the villain. Didn't see that coming, I guess. But
it's
that
something
is
that could be done, but it was so unsatisfying. And so it's like I said earlier, this series has no understanding of the source material at all.
No.
All. And it's so crazy. When you watch this movie, it is such a product of its time. I know I keep saying this, but that's what this podcast does. When you look at Terminator 1, that movie is breaking new ground. Visually, story, action, sci-fi, all of it. You look at Terminator 2, it's breaking new ground, taking Terminator 1, flipping it on its head, and still pushing the boundaries. When you look at this movie, there is no distinguishing factor to it beyond any other action movie or blockbuster that was released in 2015. That is a huge problem with a lot of these blockbuster legacy movies, where the first movies, like Star Wars, even though I do like a lot of the new movies and stuff, like the first 3 movies broke new ground. People's minds were blown. And even the prequels, new technology and stuff.
That's true.
And then when you don't keep trying to push it, you do lose something, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm not sure about that theory, but I think that is a solid theory.
Also, this just reminded me of it. The effects in this movie look worse than the last movie. And that movie was made in 2009.
Yeah.
And this movie made in 2000 what?
15.
15 looks worse.
It doesn't... When Arnold is fighting Arnold at the beginning...
It's bad.
The physics were... I mean... The young Arnold was kind of Play-Doh-y.
It almost feels like this was because we're kind of to always compare it to Marvel. We're pretty much in the middle of the MCU right now.
Yes.
More or less.
Yeah.
And it's almost like that lazy period of action stuff.
Yeah.
Where it just doesn't really matter how it looks. You just need to know what it's doing. Mm-hmm. And it's not really trying to do, like you're saying, like not really trying to do new things.
Yeah.
That's how this whole movie felt. I do feel like more towards the end when they're fighting John Connor and some of the like nanotechnology that Tony Stark invented, like effects, you know how like there's like his body's like stagnated.
I liked that. I thought that looked cool.
That. I like that. And I thought that's a shame that it's in this movie.
Right. Like that might be a striking moment in any other movie.
Yeah, it was a bummer. Okay, so John Connor shows up and it's like, oh my gosh, what's going on? And then he busts them out. They're leaving. John Connor calls Kyle dad. So Kyle
on accident. It's like a slip up.
Well, now because you find out in the same scene that he is a bad guy. Like, he knows what he was doing.
Oh,
you know?
Okay.
So
I guess this movie's a masterpiece.
It's all right. Kyle finds out that he is the father of John, which is probably a huge blow to him because he was like, the person I'm in love with is my son.
Yeah. He kind of, his reaction is like, what? Are you serious? How could you really?
With her? This lady?
Instead, I mean, that is a shocking moment in your life.
Yeah.
To find out you've been friends with your son who you have not conceived yet.
Yeah.
That's very shocking to react with, like, whoa, they're coming out with another Marvel movie? It's like the same reaction.
Yeah.
As, oh, cool. That's guy's
crazy.
Directing it. That's awesome.
I don't know if I'm ready for that, but that's crazy. So, yeah, and then this also in the same scene, they show that he is not who he is, really. And it's this when they cut back to like Matt Smith stuff, and you see that his body was like replaced with, basically his body was infiltrated by tiny bots.
Yeah.
And he's like not really who he is anymore.
Yeah.
And this is when Terminator shows up.
Yes.
And they fight in the hospital, and Kyle...
Bad action scenes ensue.
Yeah, I don't care about anything that happens, but Kyle Reese defeats John Connor for the time being using an MRI machine.
Yeah. And then at some point we see a flash that shows Miles. It's I think Courtney B. Vance is supposed to be Miles from Terminator 2. And that's his son that's running the new company, Genisys.
Oh, yeah, okay. Dyson.
And yeah. And that guy who runs the company is in it for like one scene. And I know that they're trying to, which you could have done. they're trying to play on this idea of connected, all your devices, all of your social media, it's all connected. And then that takes over instead of it being scary from the start. But to me, it's just, I think they're also trying to make a warning about, social media and stuff, and they don't really say anything.
Yeah.
And I didn't really understand what Genisys was or what they were trying to do.
No, that was never clear. But when they did have their one little presentation about it, I did zone out. So maybe it's on me.
Yeah.
Well, but I think mostly it's on them.
This is sort of a problem with this movie as well, so if it's an alternate timeline, you're telling me with all the possibilities of an alternate timeline, Genisys is created and it's going to create like the same Terminators. Like I guess it does create a new Terminator. So maybe I'm wrong in that account, but for an alternate timeline movie in a multiverse, there's nothing really different about this world.
No, watching this, like with all the stuff that's happening and seeing like the new development of what kind of robot John Connor is, it's like the humans should just give up. Yeah. I think the cards are really stacked against them, and it's time to throw in the towel.
Yeah.
It's over. We're extinct. And you know what? Maybe that's what needs to happen.
Yeah. And you know what? I'm starting to take a shine to Terminator 3, I think. I'm thinking about that ending more. Anyway, We'll get into that next week when we make our final ranking. But so there's this whole scene in the bunker that I don't really care to talk about. And then there's a school bus chase scene.
Yeah.
I mean, crazy. Just not good.
No.
Bad action. Arnold does a good job in this movie, but it's not well written.
All he does is talk. Like, there's no, like, in comparison to the other movies, that he shoots guns. Like, that's really it. I know he kind of fights in the last scene pretty much, but, like, it's a bummer because he's doing a lot of action. His character does a lot of action in the first two movies.
Yeah.
And then in this movie, so like he has to stay back while they go to 2017. So he's like alone for 30 years, like preparing for everything. And once they get there, all he does is explain things to them and how things work. So he's explaining everything to them to things that happen off screen. Yeah. How boring is that? That's so boring.
It's very boring.
And yeah,
it is to tell you though, if you're just listening to this as a fan of the podcast, but you didn't want to watch this movie, in my opinion, if you are like, hey, let's watch a bad movie and laugh, I think this movie totally qualifies for me.
I agree, but it's funnier if you've seen the other movies.
Yes. But, maybe there's someone out there that's like, yeah, I saw 1, 2, and 3 and didn't like 4 and never watched anymore. I think pop some popcorn, pour yourself a drink, and enjoy a night full of laughter. Because this movie, it's just like we're saying, every single decision they make, you just go, why did you make that decision?
Yeah.
And, there's more business. John Connor does a bunch of speeches. They break into Genisys. And then Matt Smith shows up as a hologram, and he's telling them...
They're like setting bombs up to bomb up the place, I guess. And
they're recreating the scene in Cyberdyne in Terminator 2. Yeah. Because every scene in this is a recreation.
And then they get to a place where there's like a time machine that was built, I guess. And this is another fight. This is a fight scene between Terminator and John Connor. Newsflash, Terminator wins. They both go into the time machine together. And that just takes forever. Kyle and Sarah get out safely into an area.
Yeah.
And she's like, she's calling him Pops the whole movie. We haven't talked about that.
We don't need to.
But she's devastated that he's dead. It's just like another father figure he is in this movie.
Yeah, they just recreated the T2 relationship between John and Terminator. But it's not charming in this movie because... we already saw it, and it was with a child, so there's more charm to it. Mm-hmm. Whereas this is just... And I know she was a child at some point, but now, her scolding Pops, it just comes off as kind of irreverent, I guess.
They're just totally trying to do a Shrike thing.
They are trying to do a Shrike, and Shrike rules.
Yeah.
And Mortal Engines, here's the thing. if we compare apples to apples here, Mortal Engines is definitely 10 out of 10 compared to this movie.
This series gets 6 movies.
Mortal Engines should get 2.
It should get at least 2.
Yeah.
Come on.
Go listen to our Halloween special on Mortal Engines. We surprisingly thought it was kind of a fun movie.
Yes.
With a lot of problems.
Yes.
But we've covered much worse on this.
It was an homage to a lot of different directors.
Yeah. Then John Connor's destroyed in the time machine. And then they go to...
They stalk a child.
Yes.
And they find out where he lives. And they go to his house.
They go to his house, and it's Jai Courtney's alternate Kyle Reese. And he goes, Sarah Connor walks up to the kid and says, hey, my friend needs to talk to you.
And then she does the thing that she tells him the thing with the hand. Right?
I don't remember that. What
the thing that you were complaining about.
Oh, that was actually earlier in the movie.
Okay, whatever. Oh, that's right.
Yeah. And so the kid's like, okay, he can talk to me.
And so Jai Courtney comes over and the kid says, I like her.
Yeah.
This kid's like 12. He's not 5.
And also, I'm not sure what the implication is. Because
I hated this when he's talking to Jai Courtney's saying words to this kid. And then the kid's like, why are you telling me this? And then he's like, because you're going to have to come back and tell this to yourself in the future over and over and over again.
Yeah, he says it in a metaphorical way that's also factual.
Yeah.
But so here's what's weird to me. He looks at Sarah Connor and he goes, I like her. And to me, I'm going, well, in the future, that's your wife. How weird is it that the 12-year-old is looking at this grown woman and being like, I like her. And the implication as the audience member is like, oh, yeah, that's the girl you're going to have a baby with.
Yeah.
I think that's weird.
Yeah.
And also...
It should have ripped a hole into reality.
If we're in an alternate...
This movie ripped a hole into reality, and that's why there's an alternate universe. Cracked it, and that's why it's slightly off.
But I don't understand why Kyle Reese would need to tell this alternate Kyle Reese stuff, because this Kyle Reese grew up in the war.
Mm-hmm.
So...
Unless that version of him is always coming to this version of him.
Yeah, but it wouldn't be a loop then. So there'd be no need for him to tell this kid that stuff.
Oh gosh.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think I get it.
And so then they kind of go off into the distance, and then there is a mid-credit scene that is, I don't know what happened in the mid-credit scene. It just showed like the time machine still working and like a red flare-up. And I thought, what?
It was probably Matt Smith stuff.
Yeah, well, yeah, but first of all, you didn't earn that. And then second of all, what are you talking about? You're going to show us 2 seconds and that's the post-credit scene? That's not even a cliffhanger. Yeah. We just saw a flashing light.
Yep.
I don't get that decision. I think Alan Taylor just thought, you know what? We did it on Thor: The Dark World and we're doing it in every other movie I make now. Post-credit scene on everything. Just a horrid movie.
Yeah. Really bad. Really very, very bad.
And I loved it in the way that you love a movie that doesn't work at all.
Yeah, this one in comparison to the third movie, because I did not like the third movie, and that one I was just so bored the whole time. This one I wasn't bored.
I'm definitely coming around to my ranking so far is the order in which they came out. Is how it's shaping up.
Mine's not, but
I cannot imagine that Dark Fate can be worse than this movie.
Which is funny. I think first
shocked.
episode we were talking about how like going through how it's all done and everything, and Cameron produced that one, and like some people look at it as a third movie and it's like, oh, maybe that one might be good.
Yeah.
Not anymore.
I don't think I'm gonna love it, but I cannot imagine that it's even close to as bad as Genisys.
Oh, it was bad. I thought you meant it's just gonna be really bad too.
Oh, no. I'm just saying it actually might make our enjoyment of that movie higher because we saw something so bad that we might go, oh, this is an actual story that goes from A to B to C. Cool. Mm-hmm. This actually makes sense. Yeah, that's the movie. You really should watch it because it is too crazy. Anything else from you?
I gotta stop talking about this movie.
Okay, well, I gotta tell you about www.patreon.micahmccaw, where you can get music. You can watch my full Have Yourself a 5/4 Little Christmas concert that premiered, I think, last week. We're recording these ahead of time. And even if you don't sign up for Patreon, you can go to my YouTube and watch 5 of those songs. Please do it. They're very cool. And then, but on Patreon this month for patrons, it is Gremlins. We did a Gremlins episode, and next month will be Gremlins 2. So sign up. Let's get a couple more of you over there. We're going to release the Winnie the Pooh Lost episodes once we get one more patron. So maybe by the time this comes out, it'll already be out.
Yeah.
But yeah, go watch my Christmas concert and share it with friends and family. Have yourself a 5/4 Little Christmas, Micah McCaw. Please do that. And message me. Tell me what you thought of it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, in the words of the Terminator, we'll be back one more time. And then next week, we'll announce our next series, which was a Patreon, or not a Patreon, but a fan pick. So as of now, we know it's either going to be Pirates of the Caribbean, Back to the Future, or Indiana Jones. Any guesses, Jordan?
No.
Bye.